Yeah. All right. So the title of this one would be No One Has the Right. All right. Something that's going on in this world is a jack move. A jack move on pride, respect, and uh, just principle. I guess that would be the best way to say it. Pride, respect, and principle. There's a huge attack on those things. Let me try to lay a foundation for where I'm going to go with this. I'll talk about myself. I'll use myself as an example. I've noticed a lot of times in videos, people don't really use their testimony or their examples to back up their points. They speak about them objectively. And that's primarily how you should present it. But sometimes when you add your personal experience or what you know about these things, it'll add substance to what you're saying. So I'll just use myself as an example. Um, One of the interesting things about me, I've had phases in life. I've had phases where I was up and you know a little more financially stable or socially stable, and then I've had times where I've been down, where I'm not as financially stable, or maybe I'm just not in a social phase of my life where I'm, not popular. I'm not always seen in public, or I don't go out as much, or maybe I'm not doing those things. Well, sometimes the people that were there during a phase that wasn't so great for you will be there for a phase that'll be better for you. And something that I noticed about people, it's misplaced pride. One of the number one things that I've noticed in life personally is how often people use the phrase "don't take it personal" or "don't get defensive." And I've started to realize what that is. And I started to see a pattern when people use that. So I'm going to just run it by you all. It probably happens to you all. You all may even do it to people and not be aware of it. People often use the word or the phrase "don't take it personal" or, you know, "don't be defensive" when they are trying to justify or condone them being offensive, or when they don't want to be held accountable for how they've treated you. For example, so there was a point in time, I don't know, playing sports, things like that. There was a point in time, you know, when you're a child, you can't really prove anything. No one really knows what your capabilities are. You don't even really know. So people would just kind of judge you by your appearance. Well, as you get older, you might find out that that's not the case. You might find out that you had more potential than you even knew yourself, and surely more than others thought you had. Well, that would be a latter phase. I mean, the first phase is kind of what you went through before the proven time came. All right. When proven time comes, or as time progresses, you haven't forgotten about the prior stage, how things went, and after you prove yourself, or at the very least, prove people wrong. See, that's I'm gonna expand on that. There's a difference between proving yourself, uh, you know, yeah, proving yourself and proving people wrong. There's two different things, and that's where the principle and the pride part of this comes into play. So me in particular, when I grew up, I guess it was a little bit of proving to myself because I hadn't done it yet either, so I didn't know. So I was proving to myself, like, hey, athletically, I'm just as capable, if not more capable, than most people. Just kind of, growing up. Well, it's an interesting thing that happened. So when we finally get to an age where we can start to prove ourselves, a lot of people found out that, hmm, maybe they sized me up wrong. And you know what I noticed? Those people that sized me up wrong, a lot of them had the hardest time adjusting. You know, when I was younger, people would be like, "How you gonna dribble? How you gonna tackle? How you gonna do anything? Like you can't because of your arm or whatever." Then we get older and they realize, oh, so not only did I prove them wrong, because they actually might have been one of the people that I showed my capability on. Um, After I proved them wrong, there's some people that just kind of, you know, and I can look back and say, oh man, you know what? That was just we was kids and stuff, and it is what it is kind of thing. So that's one of those forgive, but you still don't forget. I still remember. But then there was some people where they just wouldn't make the adjustment. There were some people that still maybe wanted to pick on me and tease me. And it's very interesting. And I can look back at now and I can see what it is and what it was. It's what this video is about. But at the point in time, I did not get it. I just thought they were silly and stupid, and I just chalked them up as some haters. But that's letting people off the hook because they're not haters. There's something. See, I was just like, well, they're hating on me. They didn't think I could do it, and I did it, and I am doing it, and they just can't process it. No, that's not what it is. As I've gotten older, looking back at those times, it humbles me a little bit more moving forward because now I realize those people that were treating me like that and not being able to accept the fact that, like, hey, I'm just as good as everybody else out here. I'm actually better than a lot of people out here. I didn't realize that it wasn't about me. See, I thought it was about me. Like, why are they hating on me? I started to realize it's them. See, it's crazy. And I can look back and empathize with people. See, if you can't empathize with people, sometimes it'll have you be dismissive, which is like a arrogant thing, like, oh, I'm not even gonna think about it. That doesn't deserve my time. Or it'll have you putting too much time into it and overthinking it. And I've gotten to a point where I can look back at those times and I get it now. I had to sit and think, man, if I picked on somebody and teased them and talked about what they can and can't do for 3 years, what, I don't know, like all through grade school or something. And then I even tried in middle school. Like, I don't know, so what, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th grade? I have this narrative, and then we get to like the 8th and 9th and 10th and 11th grade. And ironically, I'm sitting on the bench, and this guy that I was picking on along with everybody else, he's on the field. He's actually doing his thing. Um, he ain't the best person out there, but at the very least, I was wrong. And I still got to look this guy in the face. I still got to be around this guy. Like, thankfully I learned not to treat people like that when I was younger because I just inherently knew it wasn't how you treat people. But now that I'm older and I'm seeing the mental and emotional acrobatics people have to do within their own mind, like you could see the mental acrobatics that people are doing with their emotions kind of on their face sometimes. And once I got older and I realized that, I was like, oh, so that's why you don't treat people like that. Because it must be hard. And like I said, you had some people, they just grow up. I guess that has to do with what's the nature of your heart. You had some people, by the time we got to, 8th grade, ninth grade, 10th grade, 11th grade, that's when you really start to be able to do something. There was the ones that tried that, talk that bullshit. Now they see. But most of them kind of had something going for themselves. That's why they weren't caught up on me. It was more like oh, shit. Dude can ball. Oh, well. I'm over here balling myself. And it was just nothing more. But for some people, it was like they just looking and waiting for me to make a mistake, waiting for some type of flaw, which we all have flaws. Waiting for some type of flaw to present itself, and then they just jump all over like, see? Look, see? And I started to realize, they're not even hating on me, they hating on themselves. They bitter. They are trapped in my dungeon of principles. Because the principle of the matter is, you picked on me, you bullied me, and then the script got flipped on you. And now I'm not even worried about you anymore. I wasn't even worried about these guys anymore. Went on to live my life, but see, they're worrying about me now. So now, it's like they victimized by their own assault. Now, this is when people get defensive. Now we're going to bring Take It Personal into play. I'm walking you all through this. Now we're going to bring defensive into play. And I'm going to give you all another example. Not pertaining to me, but I'm going to give you another example of what happens a lot. So now that we're in, maybe the 11th grade or 12th grade, or maybe we're in college now. Maybe we're freshmen in college. Those people that gave me a hard time in grade school and stuff, I gravitated away from them. Why would you want to stay in close range with people who treated you like that? Like, that's the defensive part, because it's kind of like, what are you defending? Are you defending the idea that people who bullied and picked on you in grade school, you should hang out with them in college? They should, when you grow up and become adults, people who hazed you in college in your early 20s, you should be cool with them in your 30s? Like, is that what you all are? Is that what you're doing? Is that the logic behind that? That's interesting. Because in my mind, again, I was smart enough to not put myself in that situation. But if I know that I've treated someone like shit, or if I know that I've treated someone like they're lesser than me, if the day comes where the grounds and momentum for me to treat them like that goes away, I'm not going to try to pick up the energy somewhere else. I'm not going to transfer from, oh, well, I used to be able to talk about just funny stuff I pull out my ass about the guy. But now I can't do that no more because everyone knows that's not true. But I can't get over it. Like, now I gotta switch up. I still gotta mess with this guy. I really have to mess with this guy now. So now I'm just gonna go over to hating on the attention he's getting. See, he's not getting the attention that I wanted him to get, or the attention that I was a part of giving him, which is kind of like, count a person out. Well, they're not getting that attention anymore. Now they're getting acknowledgement and, kind of praise. And I'm not getting it. So really, I'm the defensive one here. I'm defensive about the fact that I'm still in the same place I was 7 years ago when I was picking on this guy. And 7 years later, this dude done advanced and moved on. I can't get over that, man. I gotta. And here's the funny thing. Like I said, I wasn't worried about these people. I was moving forward. Yeah, I knew who was in my rearview mirror. I knew who was in my peripheral. But I wasn't worried about them because they never mattered in the first place. The only time I would worry about them is for a comedic purpose. Because these people were jokes. I didn't exactly know what the joke was, but I knew it was a joke. Now I'm old enough to know what the joke is. I'm articulating the joke to you. But I didn't take them too serious back then because it was just like, you guys there's something comical about you all. I can't explain it, but you all don't seem like you're even worth my time. And I realized it. It's because these people want to keep you in your past. And not just keep you in your past, but in the negative aspects of your past. Well, now that you've moved past that, you don't have to entertain these people. It's crazy, the stuff that I've witnessed in life. And I use the example of, like, sports and performance going from like grade school to high school. But it even happens in adult life. It's very interesting. There's people in college who had a certain amount of momentum, but they don't have it now. And there's people in college who didn't have that momentum, and they sure as hell got it now. And I sit and I kind of just listen to how people talk about other people. I listen to how people talk about people that we've known for 20 years. And sometimes it's very interesting, the stuff that I hear them say. It's crazy. There's dialogue where I can look back and think about, 10, 15 years ago when we were in college and people were saying one thing about this person. Oh, they not going to be able to do this, or, yeah, just kind of not taking the person seriously. Maybe this person was going to school for some type of science trade, and I don't know, people just thought like this person weren't smart enough to do it, or they didn't think they were as committed. maybe someone was going to school for fashion design or, you know, web page design or something, and people was like, oh, that's corny, or like, man, I'm over here doing this, and this is better than what you doing, and that ain't gonna go nowhere. And 15 years later, these people actually did what they set out to do. And I noticed people like I wouldn't call it a high school reunion. I feel like you're always gonna be kind of having reunions for the rest of your life. But sometimes I'll go back to my high school town, or I'll go back to my hometown, or I'll be back in an area that I used to be in 10 years ago. And people will be around that was from that time. And you know what's funny? I'll sit back and I'll just kind of observe people. See, I'll sit and observe and see a pattern of how not much has changed in 15 years. I'll give you an incident. I was just at this it was like a little concert thing that was taking place in town I went to high school in. And it's crazy. Somehow or another, after the concert, there was like a little after party get together where a lot of the people from my high school days and, even some people from the college days were around. It's like 15 years later, it's like a lot of us in the same area. We all at the same little venue, hanging out, chilling, kind of, how those things go. And I would just kind of sit back because I never forget. And there's this thing that says your past is the greatest indicator of your future. So I would just sit back and, you know, not saying that I'm stuck at 15 years, but I would kind of just sit back and it's just crazy. Like, okay, two people that dated in college or something, and they had this monumental breakup where it was all like tabloids and everybody was talking about it, and they'll be talking like 15 years later, and I'll just kind of see how they act. And it's interesting to notice these things. The person that was popular as hell 15 years ago, but isn't now, I just kind of see how they act. The guy who was not popular at all, the guy that everyone took for granted, but is actually doing his thing now, I sit back and watch how that guy treats everybody else. And then how everyone treats him. And it's so interesting the things that you notice. And these are things that people, you would maybe say, well, I don't have time to be noticing all that. No, we are creatures of observation. Literally, our eyeballs are like our brain secreting out of our skull. Like literally your eyeballs and what you see and observe, it's hardwired into your conscious and your subconscious. So, oh, and that's another, I'll make another video about that. See, now that's a form of being defensive. See, a lot of people think keeping blinders on and just not paying attention to their surroundings and not adjusting to their surroundings, they think that that's strength. But no, that's actually weakness. That's being defensive. Because what you're being defensive over is like, well, if I actually pay attention to these key aspects of society and how people move and how people interact, I might figure out some shit about myself. So I ain't even got time to do that. I'm going to just do me. I'm going to move forward. I ain't got time to worry about that. But it's interesting. And after that party, I kind of just stayed to myself. But I noticed afterwards, like, I started thinking about myself. And I was like, well, how am I acting? And I realized something. So There was people that I completely didn't get along with. People that just utterly disrespected me, just kind of a lot of silliness back then. And I was like, well, what is my demeanor? And my demeanor was not like, oh, I'm not going to talk to you. I still got beef with you from 15 years ago. But it was just cordial, you know, kept it simple, acknowledged, spoke, the simple, like, how you been, what you been up to, so what you doing these days kind of things. And then I would just keep it moving. Now, would I have a 30-minute conversation with them? No. The people that I would have a 30-minute conversation with, if I did, were the people generally 15 years ago that I got along with. Or maybe over the course of 15 years, we've kept some communication. And you know what I noticed? I noticed that the people who kind of treated me like shit back then were reluctant to interact with me. I wasn't reluctant to interact with them. I wasn't repelling them, but it was just like, that's interesting. So you had the people that treated me how they treated me back then, and now they kind of want to act like I'm not even here. And then you had the people that treated me like they did, and they're like overindulging in the fact that I'm here. Like it's psychological manipulation. And this is another form of being defensive that people don't want to touch on. So what I notice is like, for example, it would be somebody like in college, they stole property from me, right? Never got rectified, never got hashed out. And then 15 years later, here this person is talking to me. And it's ironic because it's like they're talking, not only are they talking like that didn't happen and we don't have that history, but they're talking like we've got good history. Like the friend that I have for 10 years and we've got great history. And then the other lifelong friend that I have, we're over here talking. And then this person comes and jumps in the conversation and tries to like match dialogue as though I accept them as much as I accept the other two. Of course, I don't accept this person as much as I accept the other two. And I think this person knows that, but they're being defensive about accountability. That's what's common in this world. People are defensive about accountability. And what I noticed, like many people, like this particular individual, it's like they'll at some point antagonize or kind of challenge you on the fact that maybe you're being shorter with them than you are with other people. And you are being shorter with them than you are with other people. The reason you're being shorter with them than you are with other people is because you don't have as much rapport with them as you do with the other people. And the rapport that you do have with them is not good. They know that, but they're being defensive about it. So, because they're being defensive about it, they say, well, I'm just going to go on the offense. See, I'm defending this stuff that, closure was never provided to. It was never rectified. It was never spoken on. Amends was never done. See, they want to defend all that. They're like, oh, let's keep that back there. And like, let's defense. We make sure they don't get to that. But then not only do they do that, they go on the offense and close range on you. And kind of put you on the defense. Like, oh, let me sit here and talk to this guy like we're best of friends. And maybe that'll just keep them so far off balance. Like, and if you don't go for the off balance tactic that they're trying to throw at you, then they try to call you out on it. But see, check this out. This is funny how people call you out. Listen to people when they say these types of things to you. You might not, I don't know what your personality is. You might not even have these type of challenges in this world, or you might not be a real genuine enough person to have these type of challenges. Or maybe you're one of those people that does have these challenges, but like I said, you got this pride thing where you choose not to notice it. You should. It'll help you out a lot with dealing with people, and it'll help you better how you deal with people. But here's what I noticed that person will do. At some point, they'll speak on it. Well, sorry. They'll speak on it, but they'll speak on it in a manner that doesn't acknowledge why they're not getting as much attention from you, or you're not as engaged in dialogue with them. They'll kind of hint to it, but they'll do it in a shunning, spiteful way. Like, after about 30 minutes, they pride in it. Really, their guilty conscience starts to kick in. That's what I want you to keep in mind when people accuse you of being defensive or taking things personal. A lot of times it's their guilty conscience kicking in. And